Antarctica is Earth's southernmost and least populated continent. Situated almost entirely south of the Antarctic Circle and surrounded by the Southern Ocean, also known as the Antarctic Ocean, it contains the geographic South Pole. Antarctica is the fifth largest continent, being about 40% larger than Europe, and has an area of 14,200,000 square kilometers, 5,500,000 square miles. Most of Antarctica is covered by the Antarctic ice sheet, with an average thickness of 1.9 kilometers, 1.2 miles. Antarctica is, on average, the coldest, driest, and windiest of the continents, and it has the highest average elevation. It is mainly a polar desert, with annual precipitation of over 200 millimeters, 8 in, along the coast and far less inland. About 70% of the world's freshwater reserves are frozen in Antarctica, which, if melted, would raise global sea levels by almost 60 meters, 200 feet. Antarctica holds the record for the lowest measured temperature on Earth, minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The coastal regions can reach temperatures over 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. Native species of animals include mites, nematodes, penguins, seals, and tardigrades. Where vegetation occurs, it is mostly in the form of lichen or moss. The ice shelves of Antarctica were probably first seen in 1820 during a Russian expedition led by Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen and Mikhail Lazarev. The decades that followed saw further exploration by French, American, and British expeditions. The first confirmed landing was by a Norwegian team in 1895. In the early 20th century, there were a few expeditions into the interior of the continent. British explorers were the first to reach the magnetic South Pole in 1909, and the geographic South Pole was first reached in 1911 by Norwegian explorers. Antarctica is governed by about 30 countries, all of which are parties of the 1959 Antarctic Treaty System. According to the terms of the treaty, military activity, mining, nuclear explosions, and nuclear waste disposal are all prohibited in Antarctica. Tourism, fishing, and research are the main human activities in and around Antarctica. During the summer months, about 5,000 people reside at research stations, a figure that drops to around 1,000 in the winter. Despite the continent's remoteness, human activity has a significant effect on it via pollution, ozone depletion, and climate change. The melting of the potentially unstable West Antarctic ice sheet causes the most uncertainty in century-scale projections of sea level rise, and the same melting also affects the Southern Ocean overturning circulation, which can eventually lead to significant impacts on the Southern Hemisphere climate and Southern Ocean productivity. The name given to the continent originates from the word Antarctic, which comes from Middle French Antarctique or Antarctique, opposite to the Arctic, and, in turn, the Latin Antarcticus, opposite to the north. Antarcticus is derived from the Greek nutaiota, anti-dash, and rokapitaiota kappa, of the bear, northern. 4. The Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote in Meteorology about an Antarctic region in c. 350 BCE. 5. The Greek geographer Marinus of Tyre reportedly used the name in his world map from the 2nd century CE, now lost. The Roman authors Gaius Julius Hyginus and Apuleius used for the South Pole the Romanist Greek name Polus Antarcticus, 6, from which derived the Old French Pole Antarctique, modern Pole Antarctique, attested in 1270, and from there the Middle English Pole Antarctic, found first in a treatise written by the English author Geoffrey Chaucer. 4. Belief by Europeans in the existence of a Terra Australis, a vast continent in the far south of the globe to balance the northern lands of Europe, Asia, and North Africa, had existed as an intellectual concept since classical antiquity. The belief in such a land lasted until the European discovery of Australia. 7. During the early 19th century, explorer Matthew Flinders doubted the existence of a detached continent south of Australia, then called New Holland, and thus advocated for the Terra Australis name to be used for Australia instead. 8E9. In 1824, the colonial authorities in Sydney officially renamed the continent of New Holland to Australia, leaving the term Terra Australis unavailable as a reference to Antarctica. Over the following decades, geographers used phrases such as the Antarctic continent. They searched for a more poetic replacement, suggesting names such as Ultima and Antipodia. 10. Antarctica was adopted in the 1890s, with the first use of the name being attributed to the Scottish cartographer John George Bartholomew. 11. Positioned asymmetrically around the South Pole and largely south of the Antarctic Circle, one of the 5 major circles of latitude that mark maps of the world, Antarctica is surrounded by the Southern Ocean. Note 2. Rivers exist in Antarctica. The longest is the Onyx. Antarctica covers more than 14.2 million square kilometers, 5,500,000 square miles, almost double the area of Australia, making it the 5th largest continent. Its coastline is almost 18,000 kilometers, 11,200 miles, long. Frowny face 1. As of 1983, of the 4 coastal types, 44% of the coast is floating ice in the form of an ice shelf, 38% consists of ice walls that rest on rock, 13% is ice streams or the edge of glaciers, and the remaining 5% is exposed rock. 13. The lakes that lie at the base of the continental ice sheet occur mainly in the McMurdo Dry Valleys or various oases. 14. Lake Vostok, discovered beneath Russia's Vostok Station, is the largest subglacial lake globally and one of the largest lakes in the world. It was once believed that the lake had been sealed off for millions of years, but scientists now estimate its water is replaced by the slow melting and freezing of ice caps every 13,000 years. 15. During the summer, the ice at the edges of the lakes can melt, and liquid moats temporarily form. Antarctica has both saline and freshwater lakes. 14. Antarctica is divided into West Antarctica and East Antarctica by the Transantarctic Mountains, which stretch from Victoria Land to the Ross Sea. 16. 17. The vast majority of Antarctica is covered by the Antarctic ice sheet, which averages 1.9 kilometers, 1.2 miles, in thickness. 18. The ice sheet extends to all but a few oases, which, with the exception of the McMurdo Dry Valleys, are located in coastal areas. 19. Several Antarctic ice streams flow to one of the many Antarctic ice shelves, a process described by ice sheet dynamics. 20. East Antarctica comprises Coates Land, Queen Maud Land, Enderby Land, Mac. Robertson Land, Wilkes Land, and Victoria Land. All but a small portion of the region lies within the Eastern Hemisphere. East Antarctica is largely covered by the East Antarctic ice sheet. 21. There are numerous islands surrounding Antarctica, most of which are volcanic and very young by geological standards. 22. The most prominent exceptions to this are the islands of the Kerguelen Plateau, the earliest of which formed around 40 ma. 22-23. Vinson Massif, in the Ellsworth Mountains, is the highest peak in Antarctica at 4,892 m, 16,050 feet. 24. Mount Erebus on Ross Island is the world's southernmost active volcano and erupts around 10 times each day. Ash from eruptions has been found 300 kilometers, 190 miles, from the volcanic crater. 25. There is evidence of a large number of volcanoes under the ice, which could pose a risk to the ice sheet if activity levels were to rise. 26. The ice dome known as Dome Argus in East Antarctica is the highest Antarctic ice feature, at 4,091 meters, 13,422 feet. It is one of the world's coldest and driest places. Temperatures there may reach as low as -90 degrees Celsius, -130 degrees Fahrenheit, and the annual precipitation is 1 to 3 centimeters, 0.39 to 1.18 in. 27.